Welcome to Almost Pro, the sport podcast delivering you the untold stories from athletes who almost made it and the experts that guided them. Today, we're back with part 2 of our two-part series, Navigating Life After Sport, with special guest Carol Fox. Carol has spent her career helping athletes, leaders, and teams find their voice and lead with confidence. She's the founder of Carol Fox & co-author of Confident Communication for Leaders, and a driving force behind programs that have empowered coaches and administrators across Australia. As a former president of Women's Sport Australia and one of the Australian Financial Review's 100 Women of Influence in 2020, Carol's leadership and impact extend well beyond sport, shaping the next generation through her work with organisations like the Australian Institute of Sport, Paddle Australia, Basketball Victoria, and Tennis Australia. In this episode, we explore how to handle emotional reactions and triggers, and the role of body language and presence. Let's jump into the conversation.
Why do you think, why do small things sometimes trigger these really big, huge emotional reactions for people after leaving sport?
Yeah. Well, by the way, I don't think it's just athletes. It's all of us. This is
Yeah.
hardwired into us, right? So really, really simply, so what you've got is you've got your subconscious mind, and in that are all of the experiences from the day that you're born. But we also hold all of our moments of emotion. So all our moments of anger, sadness, fear, guilt, love, happiness, you know, positive, negative emotions. But our emotions don't hang out separately. What they do is they'll form like a strand of beads. So what happens is every time I get angry, it's like I add another bead onto that anger line. And the danger of, so technical term gestalt, other technical term is baggage. So with the baggage, then when something happens, it might be a person says something, looks at you a certain way, an event occurs. If it pushes a button, another technical term, by the way, if it pushes a button for you, then instead of having an appropriate reaction, it's like the whole force of it comes through and you end up with what's known as an inappropriate and unwarranted reaction. So how does that play out? So Frances, I can imagine with her beautiful 6-year-old daughter. What's her name, Frances?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. So Mackenzie does something really, really terribly naughty. I'm sure Frances just says, "Oh, now Mackenzie, could you just go to your bedroom now whilst I think about that really naughty thing that you did?"
Mm-hmm.
Most parents listening to this will go, "Yeah, that's not how I respond." It's sometimes a little bit of, "You get to your bedroom right now." Rah, rah, rah. Or we're driving along and someone pushes in front of us and we lose it. We might get a bit angry or a bit frustrated. Well, sometimes a bit, sometimes a lot. And we talk, we know road rage is there. We know it's not about that person who's cut in front of us. They've activated something else that's going on for us at that time. So what's so great knowing this is that we're all walking around with these buttons that can be pushed. And that's why people you come across will often have inappropriate and unwarranted reactions. And it's not about you. It's actually their own stuff that's going on for them.
I love the visual of those beads,
Yeah.
of just the barrage of all of the other beads I've threaded before. This just happens to be the last one that went on before we ran out of thread to put them on.
Yeah.
You can picture that, right? You can picture the moment where they all boil and everything gets pushed off.
And it just comes through. And of course, parents listening too, our children are born with that button pushing manual. They know exactly what
Oh, yeah.
buttons are pushed.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't
yeah.
know about you two, but I certainly knew the ones for my parents. So,
Oh, yeah.
we know our partner. If I want to push a
Yeah.
button, I know exactly where to go there. So I avoid the word trigger just because I think as a word we're associating it with trauma, and we've all got buttons. They can all be pushed. And post pandemic, those buttons are way closer to the surface, which is why we're dealing in sport. We're dealing a lot with negative emotions coming up for people a lot faster, where they used to be able to hold them down. So what's that about? Well, then we're all human. So if I do have an inappropriate reaction to something, again, apologize if that's appropriate. But also to go back later and instead of sitting in shame and regret, to be able to go, okay, what was that really about? What
Yeah.
what was that about? Francis looked at me a particular way. Why did that bother me? I wonder what was going on for me that did it.
Mm.
And then it might be, and we don't always need to know the answer. It's the fact that we're willing to ask that question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of times as well with athletes, there's a lot of times athletes don't perform to a level that they expect themselves to, or maybe they make an unforced error. Maybe they didn't make that home run they thought that they should have. And a lot of the times as athletes, I find that whether it comes from your inner dialogue or a coach or someone in your immediate sort of training group that says, just be positive, just forget about it, just forget about it. And I think the danger with that seems to be that the energy has nowhere to go. So you're not actually
No.
that emotion, you're not handling how that felt in the moment.
Yeah.
You're suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And then after sport, you no longer you get tired of having to suppress like that. And sometimes when I see these big emotions, just as a spectator, knowing very little about it all, and I'm thinking, yeah, like I can understand that from an athlete perspective because you didn't have the room to be able to get that energy out. So I've often wondered, what is the best way? What are the tools that can help people regulate and respond better? With more confidence, be less reactive.
Yeah, it's so important, that one. This idea of being dismissed, when we share our feelings and our emotions and then people go, "Oh, well, just be happy." It's like, no, that it's an inappropriate response. That's where
Yeah.
we've got to be a lot more kind to each other to go, wow, what happened for you then? So the question that I might ask an athlete who is struggling or anyone is, what's going on for you that you're saying this or doing this right now? It's a beautiful question to very gently call people out on behavior and what's happening. But there's a couple of things, particularly if I've been blindsided or something and someone said something and I, have that visceral reaction. The first thing I always do is change body language. So whatever your body language you're in at the time when you're hearing it, get out of that because we hold that in our body. Take a breath if you've got time. And the breath is about reminding ourselves that we're safe and secure. Because when we're running from something, from danger, we're not stopping to take a nice big breath. The other step is, well, that's not about me. So even though it might sound that it might sound like it's about you, everyone's got their own stuff. So if they're
Mm.
being nasty and have said something, it's not about you. And then that compassion, I wonder what's going on for Laura at the moment, that she said what she did in the meeting. And it saves me from taking things personally because everyone's doing the best they can.
Mm. And yeah, the number one expression that I often heard in and around any sport was get over it, move on, think of the next point, think of the next play. And so these tools can be so important. It seems like there's a very fine line between, I know we don't like triggered, but being kind of triggered and just
Mm.
being human.
Yeah, well, it's being human. Athletes are human, and that you just don't know what's going on for people. But most interesting, when you take things personally, that's when you go into your responses. So even it might be, Laura, you and I are playing a tennis match and it's so important, but you hit a ball towards me. The second I make that hit that you did about me, I now have to go into an emotional response. I go into
Yeah.
my fight response where I now get angry and go, "I'll bloody show you." I go into my flight response where I back down. I go into my freeze response where my brain's now not working and I'm not in flow, or the fawn response, which we wouldn't do on a tennis court, but we do in real life, which is the over apologizing. I'm so sorry, and making things okay. So we want to override those sort of responses. And how we can do that is, even just to say, well, that's not about me. That ball that just got hit really hard at me, that wasn't about me.
Yeah, I think it can affect such a big physical response too, can't it? Like in sport and out of sport. You think, in sport, okay, all of these emotions start going through my head, and that affects my physical performance. Maybe unless
Yeah.
we're, John McEnroe, or we look at the workplace. You might be writing a case or dealing with a situation, and you're thinking, you're not thinking, almost it's you're doing, and then you start to have the doubt. Then maybe someone makes a comment, and then it has this physical reaction. Well, now I don't know if I can achieve this task.
Yeah.
Was I achieving the task well in the first place? And it has this physical reaction which can change the result.
Absolutely. And that's where, again, we've got to be careful with our self talk. If I'm already feeling a little bit down and then someone says something, there's more evidence. So just remember, whatever we focus on, we'll find evidence for. So
Yeah.
that's where we've got to kick in and override it and go, you know
Mhm.
what? No, drawing a line in the sand. I'm wise, I'm capable, I'm competent.
Was it the red car theory they used to talk about? If you've bought a red car or you're interested in a
Yeah.
red car, you only
Yes.
see red cars
Yeah.
after that. I think it's the same kind of thing, right? When we're
Mhm.
fixated on proving our point that, maybe it's that the coach is singling me out, then
Yes.
every interaction, I'm going to be able to prove myself right. Interestingly, to flip that,
Mm.
we'd still be able to prove ourselves right. The coach is not singling me out, because then
Mhm.
I would start for the evidence that suggests he or she is targeting others,
Mm.
and instantly I've proven that to be true. That the red car theory, if I'm looking for it, I'll find it, can be true on both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. What
Yeah.
you look for and focus on, you will find. I mean, the
Yeah.
theory and what sits behind that red car theory is something that I share. Is imagine that right now there's around 2 million little bits per second of information out there. So you can imagine them like computer bytes if you want. We can't process that. So our
No.
subconscious mind has to decrease down,
Yeah.
and it does that by deleting things out of our experience, distorting what we see, hear, feel, and think, and then making generalizations. So, in a model that I often share by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, we go from 2 million bits per second down to 134 bits per second. And the theory is that that's our reality at any one time. That's 0.0007% of a total possibility of what's out there. And once you get that and you realize the power of self talk, that's why reframe tools work. It's why
Yeah.
what if questions work. Because if I say to myself, I mean, how many sports I've had to work with around the umpire? The umpire's out to get us. The umpire's not being
Mhm.
fair today. Well,
Mhm.
what happens then is that as a team, we find the evidence. We delete any time. So if I go to that model, we delete any time the umpire's fair to us. We distort how unfair they are
Mhm.
and how the other team's getting everything. We then
Mhm.
generalize. We come back in at half time. All we do is whinge about the umpire. Well, what's happening to our performance? We're not
Yeah.
at our best. So I
Yeah.
teach coaches to start to go, what if the umpire's actually really fair today, and that this next half we can step into that energy? Out, go. So we don't, a reframe can be really easy. But what
Yeah.
you focus on, it's a bit like, oh, they're a difficult person. So we don't use the word difficult in anything to describe anyone or anything. Because as soon as you decide they're a difficult person, you'll delete any time they're being nice. You will actually distort how they talk to you, how they sound, how they look
Yeah.
at you. You'll find your evidence, generalize, and then what happens is you turn up differently. You go into your fight, fright, flight, or fawn mode. You're not at your best. They become difficult because, to be honest, you're not very pleasant.
So very true.
Yeah.
Do you Do you feel like you've got to stay on it every day, Carol? Like there's obviously the more we practice being in the space of staying aware of our self-talk and going through corrective behaviors, the better we'll get at it. But my experience is it's an everyday position you need to take.
Mm.
It finds its way back in. It's the external influences of the world. It's the situations you find yourself in where you go, oops, oops, I did look at the person on the other side of the counter and think, gosh, they're difficult, instead of going, I wonder what happened before they got to work today.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the compassion, and I don't know if it's something that comes with wisdom, I'd like to call it, but yeah, I still have days where I have to be consciously aware, but it's like a sporting skill. You practice this enough, the reframe tool becomes automatic. So
Yeah.
I can hear my subconscious mind doing it. And then I'm like,
Mm.
why am I doing that? I mean, it's like I had this thought and then the subconscious mind's like, right, we've trained for this. No, I'm
Yeah.
wise, I'm capable and whatever. I'm going, what was I reacting to then?
I've identified a threat and I didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it. So it
Yeah.
is the practice initially, but
Yep.
then it becomes second nature. And I know when I catch up with clients who use this, how they'll say after a while they're doing it without even thinking about it. I mean, that's what we do in sport. You know,
Mm.
you've got to pick. If there was something here today that resonates with you, then that's what you practice until it
Yeah.
becomes a subconscious response. Is that to
Yeah.
say I don't get grumpy? I don't have buttons pushed. There's buttons that get pushed, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, I wonder what went on then. What was that pushing? And
Yeah.
it's from a place of curiosity, not judgment. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, it's almost like training your mind like you train for your sport, right? Like it's
Mm.
Yes.
having the same level of determination and to achieve this goal as you did to achieve that goal. Yeah, so important.
Though this is easier, and I'll tell you why, because this comes from a place of compassion for yourself, but also for others. So if
Mm,
we can drop into, we're all human, we're all doing the best we can. Post pandemic, it's even harder for everyone. If we
Mm.
remember that, then compassion means that we can go into the flow, which for some of us with sport was the way that we could be at our best as well. So
Mm.
I think I find it a lot easier to come from a place of compassion than a place of judgment.
Do you think, though, that there's still this notion that our propensity to fall into judgment oftentimes comes from those layers of our own insecurity? So even when you
Ah,
talk about it from a competition perspective, they pose a threat. I am competing against them, and so the threat to me is that they could be better. My insecurity then is sparked to say, what if I'm not the best?
yep,
So
absolutely.
we create these self-protections of, what is judgment, that says, how do I minimize that threat for myself? I will
Mm.
judge in a way that puts it all down. And what you've just spent this time telling us is that's not the only way, but it's probably not the best long-term way.
No, and I haven't actually ever verbalized this, and I love that we've got to this. But as an athlete, we've talked about transitioning out. So now I know I definitely judged, so I was able to go into battle. I
Yeah.
mean, you can even hear the language I use,
Yeah,
particularly
yeah,
surf
yeah.
life saving, where we're battling the surf. I had to really be in that energy. But as I said, I was awful back then. I wouldn't connect with you two as my competitors, because if I connected with you and I liked you, I wouldn't be able to battle.
Yeah, I've humanized you.
And
It's
yeah,
interesting, Carol, because you've touched on it a couple of times now about without labeling it, but you've touched on this real talk and the notion of vulnerability. I suspect when you were competing and you're fighting for a woman to be in that space, there was no room to be vulnerable,
mm,
because the reality is the tools that you knew to bring to battle were equal levels of armor and weaponry,
yeah,
right? It was
absolutely.
never to bring this whole other toolkit called vulnerability. We have been given more permission for that in recent times because we've seen it modeled. We've seen
mm,
people display vulnerability and get a good response. We understand now to do that, and you've exemplified that in so many of your responses today, that
Mm.
sometimes just showing up as you are is the way that people will meet you the fastest and the closest.
yeah.
Mm.
But that wasn't always the case. So I understand, to some extent, I do understand the mindset of going into battle in what you were doing and needing to stay in that mindset because you didn't have a toolkit B. You weren't allowed to bring that one.
No, you didn't know. And that's why the work I do with women leadership in sport's so important, because for so many years we didn't have role models. Society's changing now, and they're now appreciating what women bring to leadership. And
Yeah.
the way that we lead is different to
Yeah.
men, but you put
Yeah.
them both together, they work so well. But for
Yeah.
a long, long time, particularly my generation, there wasn't anyone out there doing it, because
Not at all.
we all made ourselves into men because they were the only
Yeah.
role models we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is why programs where we're uh, bringing in more women coaches and doing mentoring is all about showing the generations coming through that there's a different way that we can move forward.
This feels a little bit full circle, right? So you touched earlier on body language and the sense that for women and men, there are different reactions to the same types of body language. We respond differently to the stance that a woman might take compared to the same stance taken by a man. Do you have a view on confidence setting for athletes who are transitioning out of sport and into the broader part of the next chapter for them? What are the ways that you could share body language understandings with someone who's learning how not to stand behind their racket anymore, how not,
Yeah.
those types of feelings?
Yeah. Well, there's a stance that I teach, which it's called a confidence stance, and maybe I can give you a visual we can pop in the notes or whatever. But
Mm.
it's one of the reactions people will have is a lot of women are taught this power stance, which is the Superman stance or the Superwoman stance, right? And again, I'll talk binary here, but when a woman drops into that, it actually releases testosterone, which might be good depending on what sport you play, right? But if you're going to stand in front of a room full of men and you're going to talk about your experience and you start in your power stance, you're not in your authentic energy, right? That's when people will react. You walk into a room of men and you're angry or going, "Hi, I'm Carol Fox and I'm an expert." They're going to cut you down big time. Okay. And it won't just be men either. It'll be any audience. So
Yeah.
I worry a little bit about, I can see where it can be used maybe before a sport where I've got to be fighting, but it's
Yeah.
a fighting stance. It's a battle stance, right?
Yeah.
Superman,
Yeah.
I'm powerful.
Yeah.
So what I teach is confidence stance, which actually comes from qigong, which is a 4,000-year-old. It's a version, martial arts and movement, and it's a really powerful stance where it's pretty much your feet are hip width apart. There's a tiny bend in the knee, which is about flexibility, and then your hand goes over your wrist, so you pull your shoulders back. Hand goes where your watch would be, and you stand in that. Now, you can have women standing in that, you can have men standing in it. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
now I've brought it up to your awareness. You'll see politicians might use it, military use it,
Mm.
but also I might have to drop in a picture of when a team recently used it lining up before a game. They won the game standing like that because they were still, they were grounded,
Yeah.
and the words that come across when we do it in a group is often, wow, you're wise, you're grounded. I'm now going to give you some space to start to share your story.
Mm.
So,
Do you know the confidence stance is going to be my new red car? I'm
Yeah.
going to be
yeah,
looking for it everywhere,
yeah.
and I suspect I'll find it.
And you'll definitely see it. And the what's so beautiful about it is, athletes will totally get this. Change your physiology, you change your emotional state. I
Yep.
don't walk out onto a field or into a pool with my shoulders forward. The first thing my coach would say is get those shoulders back. So our physiology has a huge impact on our emotions. So the confidence stance when I go networking and I don't like it would be to actually have my 3 words, but while I'm waiting for someone to talk to me, just to stand with a smile on my face, with my standing like that. So my hands are across my wrist, shoulders are back, feet a little bit apart. And I'll tell you, people look across and they're like, "Oh, she looks interesting." Like you actually are approachable versus, I don't know, imagine standing there in your Superman pose, drinking your glass of champagne. It's not very
I do think
approachable.
there's something so drawing to a person who can be still.
Mm.
So to create a stance that allows both feet to feel grounded, the hands to feel otherwise occupied, and create an opening across your chest where your shoulders are back, I think that is drawing. We know those types of people in our world who
Mm.
can just stand still.
Yeah. And
There's
even and I have people say to me, because we teach it sitting as well, for example, in meetings or even in a media conference. So, I mean, you can't see I'm doing it, but the shoulders are back, but I'm grounded. My feet are on the
Mm,
ground. I've got this sitting in front of me.
mm,
And imagine if that physiology now is a serotonin hit or whatever else, it's grounding me to then my inside, I take my breath. I know the media are about to hit me with it. And then it's like, I'm wise, I'm brave, whatever the words are,
yeah,
then you're really stepping into that energy and you can reset what's gone on beforehand. So it's a beautiful reset
yeah.
tool.
Yeah. You've given advice that can be applied in
Hmm.
this conversation, Carol. I think that is what we're all looking for, right? When we commit our time to listening to a podcast, we're saying, what is it that strikes for me? Is it the
Mm.
person's story that I feel related, that I can relate to, or is it something I can take away and apply in my world? And I feel as though, this is an episode filled with gems and treasures
No,
for everyone.
lovely.
Can you tell me in closing,
Yeah.
when you are working with athletes and you're watching them move through this shift from their time as a sports person to whatever is next for them,
Mm.
what is the pearls of wisdom you wish you could put in their hands
Hmm.
as they go through the changes?
I think it's at the end of the day, please be be kind and create space for yourself. This is a
Mm,
journey. So step back, take that breath and kindness to self and others, and not alone, never. And and to be really curious, wow,
yeah,
I wonder what that was all about. What was the past 10 years about? What Wow, if there's a bigger picture here, what is it? And you don't need to know the answer either. Just asking that question is enough to be able to put that thought out there. So, we've got to be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah,
amen to that.
definitely.
On all fronts, on all fronts.
Well, Carol,
Absolutely.
it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the
Oh,
show
thanks.
today. And I think this is such a great, as Francis sort of said, a great starting point for people that need, a definite starting point. This conversation could be a real starting point for people to make changes and meaningful changes moving
Yeah.
forward. But
Mm.
you don't get out of here today without a game of this or that. This is one of our favorite segments, and it is rapid.
Okay. All
So it
right.
is just
Oh,
a series of about 10 questions. Whatever the first answer is that comes to your mind, that's the one we're after. Are you ready?
okay. All right. Well, I might not have anyone listening to anything I've said after this, but we'll see how we go.
All right.
All right.
Confidence stance or power outfit?
Confidence stance.
Big keynote on stage or one on one coaching session?
Big keynote on stage.
AFL Grand Final or Australian Open? I won't take any offense.
Australian Open.
Country retreat or city buzz?
Oh, country retreat.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Networking event or dinner with close friends?
Dinner with close friends every time.
Makes sense after our conversation earlier. Surf life saving carnival or basketball game?
Surf Life Saving Carnival.
Storytelling through words or storytelling through body language?
Oh, storytelling through words.
Early morning beach walk or late night reading?
Can I do both but change the walk to a swim?
Yeah.
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 Can
your
I?
own adventure.
I'm not.
Pick your own adventure.
If you had this and that and it was a group of people, I'd just stand in the middle and go, I'm going to do both of those.
That's fair.
I do love my late night reading though.
I love it.
Maybe that.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
I dared mindset or I can mantra?
I dared. I like that.
Love
I like
it.
that word.
Dress rehearsal or improv in the moment?
Improv in the moment.
And last one, coaching the next generation or mentoring a peer?
Oh, coaching next generation.
Nice. There you go. That's this or
I
that with
survived.
Carol.
I was only in the middle of the room for one of them.
You too, Craig.
We didn't even have to rewrite the game for you. That's wonderful. I love this. Carol, it's been a pleasure. Today we've been joined by Carol Fox, a leader, coach, and advocate whose work reminds us that confidence, communication, and presence are skills we can all learn and carry beyond sport. From reframing limiting stories to finding our voice, Carol shows us how to step forward with courage and connection. If you'd like to connect with Carol or explore her work, head to carolfox.com or find her on socials at Carol Fox Co. on Instagram and Facebook, and on LinkedIn at Carol Fox & Co. We'll also have those links waiting for you in the show notes. Carol, thank you again and welcome to the Almost Pro family.
Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to be part of the family.
Pleasure.
And to everyone listening from home, the gym, or on the go, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next step on the Almost Pro journey. And if you've got a story to share or know someone who does, we would love to hear from you. Head to almostpropodcast.com or find us on socials at Almost Pro Podcast to get in touch.